down there is sticking.
And prior to the kickoff, we'd like to ask for all the veterans in attendance to please.
Let's go!
What's it feel like to be 5-0 after beating a team like that, especially?
It feels great going into the bye week 5-0. We knew we had to come out and be physical. We knew they were a physical team. We watched a lot of film and developed our skills over the practice times.
I like this group. They're all close. Even though they're in different grades, they're very close, and I love the way this team plays together.
How's the bus ride going to be home?
The bus ride home is going to be exciting, and we're definitely going to turn up a little bit in the locker room and on the bus.
Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to the Meat Grinder, your weekly dose of high school football in Connecticut. And I'm your host, Sean Patrick Bowley. With me, as always, is Peter Paguaga. Petey, what's up?
Nothing. Nice, relaxing week. Have been going through my basement. We're reorganizing. Obviously, some people might know I got a new background this year. We had our basement done, so I'm going through a lot of boxes, and I pulled out my pancakes, our Serve Daily shirt from the Berlin football team from a couple of years ago. And, because we got a text message from hand coach Eric Becker this weekend before Friday night's game of Paul Candelari and Tyler Narachi wearing Italian combo shirts that they had made. And, I said it on the show. So, I'm an XL, double X maybe if I'm feeling comfy. You know where to send it. So, now I'm just going to rep. I'm going to rep the shirts that I've been sent over the years. So we're starting with pancakes.
Yeah, I have a few of those. I have the pancakes one. You have more than I do, apparently. But I
have full uniforms. I don't know if anyone wants to see me in my full Notre Dame West Haven jersey.
The Greenwich yellow pants.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone's going to want to see that.
I'm eagerly awaiting my one from Coach Monroe and Lyman Hall after they rewarded my faith with a victory over New London, comeback win. So that was good for them. So that's good. Look, I'll take it. We'll take helmets. We'll take whatever you guys want. We'll put them in back.
If anyone wants to send helmets, I'll move these Legos behind me.
Yeah,
I'll put some football helmets up during the season.
Before we begin on this, what was a pretty light week 5. Thank you. Remember to like and subscribe and give us comments on and tell us how we're doing and all that good stuff. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, make sure you leave us a rating there as well, or wherever you get your podcasts. We're all over the place, and it's kind of hard to keep track of it all. But remember to, it really helps us, continue to grow this brand as we move forward. But Pete, after a pretty relatively, we were pretty busy. Don't get me wrong. There were plenty of football games going on, but I had a really nice Saturday. I have to say it was nice not going anywhere. The only option really I had was ATI maybe in the morning, and then I'll go out to see NFA West Haven in the afternoon. And I said, you know what? I'm taking a Saturday off. And I went out to the Vineyard up in Wallingford, and I got to see a comet. How about that? The comet, I don't even know how to pronounce the name, but it was visible. It was like the height of visibility going over the horizon, the ridge over by Cheshire and Wallingford. So that was really nice. How about you? What'd you do this week?
I was on the island, so a buddy of mine was in town. It was his kid's birthday, so we had a birthday party. So I got to see some friends from home. And then had dinner with my parents. Were in town yesterday. So it was a very nice, relaxing weekend as well for the Paguaga family. So really appreciate it. I mean, it's going to wildly alter this week. But, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but we're already looking at Saturday. So,
yeah, it was a nice break for everybody involved. And but it was an interesting week. Not a lot of movement. We only had 2 top 10 teams playing this week, and both kind of struggled a bit. We're going to actually start off there at the top of the show. You heard a little bit from the Killingly Guilford game, probably one of the most anticipated games of the week that came out overwhelmingly in favor of Killingly, the team formerly known as the Red Hawks, formerly known as the Redmen. But that was a big win for them. It looks like they're legit. We'll get into that in a minute. But Let's just kind of jump into the top 10 because listen, not a lot of there was movement despite only 2 teams playing. Let's go. Let's start. I just dropped. We're recording this on Monday, so it just dropped. Let's start off at the bottom. Number 10 is Massac, which 3-1. Another week to stew over its 21-0 loss to Bunnell before going to 2-2 New Milford this week. Number 9 is Newtown, which didn't have the week off and had its hands full with a feisty and heretofore winless Pop Rock squad. The Nighthawks only led 7-0 at halftime, but the defense made sure that was really all they needed in an eventual 17-0 victory. Ryan Schaufstall threw for 203 yards and a touchdown pass to Will McManus. He also ran for another. Jaden Taylor with only a couple of touches here as Aiden Paulus ran 17 times for 88 yards. The Hawks, who won't see their first bye until November 1st, is getting reeling Shelton next. Reeling and winless Shelton next. Number 8 is St. Joseph, which drops a spot despite being idle. They're 4-0. They have the week off ahead of a pretty big road game at Darien. We'll get to that. Number 7 is Bunnell, which jumped up a spot after being idle this week. 4-0, coming off their 21-0 victory over Massac. They also get an extra week to prepare for another big unbeaten and perhaps untested battle with Brookfield on the road Friday night. Number 6 is New Canaan, not undefeated, of course, but also with a pretty big game coming up against unbeaten Staples. 1:30 p.m. Saturday afternoon. We will all be there, so should you. Number 5 is Darien, also 3-1, playing host to St. Joseph, of course. Remember, that's a 7:30 start Friday night. Number 4 is Hand, which is unbeaten, 5-0 going into their bye week after a 26-0 victory over pesky Hillhouse at the Surf Club. The Tigers only led 6-0 at halftime, but Hillhouse's Amir Danley left the game early and is likely out for the year with a shoulder injury. There were never in really any serious doubt for the Tigers. They put that game away in the second half. Number 3 is Staples, coming off their bye, 4-0, heading into New Canaan at 1:30 on Saturday. Number 2 is Windsor, 4-0, coming off their bye, heading to face Jesus Martel and the Spartans of Maloney at Falcon Field. And number 1 is Greenwich, 2-2, playing host to Wilton at home on a rare Friday night game in Greenwich. I guess the people who usually complain about the lights in Greenwich are away for the weekend. But there you go, Pete. That is the top 10 poll. A little weird little blip with Bunnell jumping over St. Joseph without anybody doing anything except sitting home.
Yeah, I feel like we're always a week late. I feel like some of the voters are a week late. If you read Mike Fornabaio's post about the poll, one person didn't even vote for Bunnell last week. So I don't know what we're doing. The way I like to think of this, and as much as I would love the poll to be perfect every week, it will never be for, it's impossible to be. But I like to think that the voters watch the show and they say, wow, Pete and Sean are so smart. And then they change their vote the next week, because how the heck isn't Bunnell getting a vote after last week? I mean, to enter this week, it's kind of crazy. And, there's been some chirping from people from St. Joe's. Oh, we're still, they were 7. Well, now you're 8 this week. But hey, you got Darien could make some noise this week, but the poll's hard. 2 weeks ago, West Haven fell out after winning. So it's not an exact science. It's also not something that Sean and I just sit here and put together ourselves.
Yes.
There are, I want to say, let me count, 23, 24. There are 25 different ballots that are put together in this poll. So I see some comments where they're like, you're not giving us love. And it's like, well, no, I am in my poll. There's just 24 other people who aren't. So I think, we need to understand how I might do a PSA.
Yeah.
PSA of how to. Yeah. Cause, I don't know.
Guys, here's just an important lesson to learn in life. Please understand what you're talking about before you talk about it. At least make an attempt to understand what you're talking about before you're talking about. And if you don't know what you're talking about, try to ask a question to understand what you're talking about. That way, you'll be educated. You'll be educated, and you can learn more that way instead of just going around saying, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Why don't I do this? Why don't I see that? Well, why don't you read first or look at it or understand things? I think you'll get a lot further in life that way. This has been an SBB PSA. for us all here. So there you go. So Pete, that is the top 10. I don't know. I mean, it's a marathon, not a sprint with the poll. It doesn't matter where you finish, right? But it is fun to do all the rankings, and that's why we kind of do this stuff. But with the top 10 out of the way, we'll get to some of the other games that might have influenced it a little bit later. But with the top, most of the team being off, it was time to kind of spread our wings a little bit and get to see some of the teams that we don't normally see, maybe a little down ballot, some of the lower divisions. And when I say lower, I mean, the Class S's and the SS's of the world that aren't normally in the top 10. So this is a good opportunity for us to get a look at those teams. And let me just start off by the big one, obviously, what we talked about at the top of the show. Killingly visiting Guilford in a battle of an unbeaten team in Killingly versus one loss Guilford, which lost to Cheshire to start the year. Killingly, if you recall, they began the season 0-2 to start last year, and they're in Class L because the CIC had the school of choice modifier placed on them. So every time they went to the semifinals or beyond, they got bumped up. So they were in Class L last year. This year they removed that modifier, and Killingly dropped all the way back down, probably where they belong. You could quibble about it, in Class SS, and they were facing a Guilford squad, double M last year, 7-3, couldn't beat Ham, but very encouraging with Caden Hillier coming back to lead the team at running back. Interesting matchup because Killingly also had the Hayden twins, including the Allard twins, including Hunter Allen at linebacker and Hayden Allard, the great running back who's making everyone go like, Soren who? Who's been great. It's a young team coming in, Killingly, lots of juniors and some senior leaderships who kind of took their lumps last year in getting to the playoffs and losing to New Canaan. They also lost to Maskey, if you recall. But Coach Chad Neal said it was a very beneficial thing for them as they head into this game at Kavanaugh Field. And it was a gorgeous night. I guess the Aurora Borealis is out, but I didn't really quite see it in Guilford over at Kavanaugh Field. But the beautiful half moon hanging over the field on a chilly night as we get into the middle of the season and fall takes its hold on New England. From the outset, though, Pete, this was all Killingly. First play of the game, ball handoff goes to Hillier, who gets popped at the line of scrimmage and fumbles, recovered by junior Trevor Galarza at the 28. Hayden Allard took it in from there, 7-0 Killingly. Guilford goes nowhere against the Killingly defense. Killingly gets the ball near midfield, and just 2 plays later, Aiden Lamont, the junior, listed as a generous 5'7", which I know all about because I'm listed typically as a generous 5'7", hauls in a wide open play-action pass from junior quarterback Quinn Summer, 13-0 Killingly. Then Hillier shows up, bursts through the line, and outraces everybody for an electric 79-yard touchdown run up the middle to get Guilford within 13-7. Game on, right? No. Killingly's defense, led by Hayden's twin brother Hunter Allard and senior Anthony Oates at linebacker, never let Hillier really get anything of significance after that. They were great in this one. Hayden Allard scored his second touchdown on a short run, and after another unproductive Guilford possession, Killingly really put this game away. Junior Peyton Wallace made a ridiculous catch down the right side, and look at this concentration. Shades of Julian Edelman, right, over the Patriots. And I'm thinking more like Lynn Swan, that acrobatic of the receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 70s in the Super Bowl. Nevertheless, an amazing catch to set up Allard's third touchdown run, and Killingly now up 3 scores, 27-7. Guilford tried to respond late in the first half with a couple minutes left, but it's forced to punt. And remember this guy? Galarza with the acrobatic punt block. You just can't get the right bounce to pick it up. No worries. Sumner hits Hunter Allard over the middle for a short strike, and it's 34-7 at the break, and that was just about that. Hilliard finished with 147 yards on 20 carries, according to Arnett Griffin. He also had the 2 touchdowns, but Killingly got 100 yards and 3 scores from Hayden Allard, another 100 yards and a score from senior Everton Brown. Look out, ECC and Class SS. Killingly looks like it is back in Killingly form. After a sort of down year off or something like that, they look pretty good, Pete.
Yeah, Killingly's that type of team that you're going to see in the postseason, and that there's going to be a different back, right? They have just made it their job of just finding another guy year after year. So you kind of maybe root against them in the season. You're like, oh, well, what if Killingly actually loses? And then they go out and they like beat up on Guilford, and you're like, all right, never mind, same old. All right, I'll pencil Killingly in for where double S play last year. So they played at UConn. All right, so we'll pencil in Killingly to play in the double S finals at Central this year. All right, we'll see Chad at the luncheon. Yeah. They're just, I mean, it's just such an amazing program. And they're, they probably didn't belong in L, like you had said earlier. I don't know if they belong in double S. I don't know how the VOAG doesn't make you a choice school, but those are decisions that are made by people who get paid a lot more money than I do. I guess I don't know how else to say it, but it's just interesting. Like, I don't know if they're a double S, but I know they're not an L. So, but either way, Killingly's legit. We know that, and it was nice to see them put up against. Look, they came back against Sheehan. Guilford's a good team.
Big win. That was a big one for them. Yeah, that would kind of like give us an idea.
Yeah. So, like, it's not like them just beating up on ECC teams, which they've literally done for the last, decade. So it's nice to see them get out and playing some teams that are maybe a little faster, a little bigger. Not that they need help getting ready for the playoffs, but
speaking of which, here is Chad Neal, the Killingly coach, on this group of seniors, juniors, and underclassmen. He says it's really good. He really likes it a lot. They've all kind of come up together and learned some of the ropes and took their lumps last year as much as you could, and now he really likes their chances this year.
I like this group. I mean, we knew when they were freshmen, especially what we had with them. Last year we went with a lot of those sophomores and played them. We took our alums early against some good teams like Massac, Notre Dame, West Haven, and we kept getting better and better. And the older guys like Reef and the extra Julius led those guys, showed them the way. We got to the playoffs, and that was beneficial. Even though, going down to New Canaan, we got whooped, but it was beneficial.
Feels great going into the bye week 5-0. We knew we had to come out and be physical. We knew they were a physical team. We watched a lot of film and developed our skills over the practice times.
Oh man, I just ran straight, and ball came in my hands, popped out a little bit. I feel like tugged on my jersey a little bit, but still came down with it,
Was it like you were in slow motion or something?
I don't know. It's just I black out when the ball comes to me, and that's pretty much it.
How did it feel to make that catch?
It felt great, man.
Was it the best catch for me?
One of.
You made something like that somewhere?
Yeah. Probably last year against Thames River.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You also heard from Anthony Oates, their great linebacker who had a sack and was kind of leading the defense that kept Guilford under wraps. And they also heard from Peyton Wallace there about his catch. No big deal for him. I mean, we're all sitting there going, wow, what a great catch. He's like, man, I've made them before. So I thought that was good.
I guess it's easier to say that after you've made a catch like that.
I suppose, yeah. He's like, I meant to do that. It's like the Herman. Anyway, so Killingly looks like pretty good. Speaking of Class Double S, as we hit the midseason, we're going to start looking at playoffs now. There was another big one the night after in the Class Double S race and the ECC as well, involving Waterford, unbeaten, and Ledyard. It's one of the biggest games in the year, probably out in the Eastern Connecticut Conference. Obviously, as I mentioned, Double S playoff, so they're both in Double S right now. Waterford was 4-0, but not without some bumps and bruises on the way. They barely beat Foreign 28-27 in their first Alliance game to kick off the season, one that saw back Brady Sutton go down for the year with a leg injury. So after winning their next three convincingly over some suspect competition, now we got to see if the Lancers were really all about and they could keep this thing going against a Ledyard squad, which, if you recall, Pete, was muddling about last year before switching to the single wing and then going on a late season run to qualify for the state playoffs. AJ Adamick was back after a great junior season, but this group was a little untested heading into this one. Their first four opponents were a combined 1-15. And it was another gorgeous night where there were numerous photos of the Aurora Borealis, particularly in the state. And I'm pretty sure that wasn't it over Alumni Field, but gorgeous nonetheless. I love those sunset shots, as you can tell. Ledyard, Pete, used good field position to start this one out. Great crowd in attendance. They took a 6-0 lead after the first quarter with a short Adamick run. But after that, it was pretty much all Waterford. A nice punt return by junior Parker Spencer sets Waterford up in the second quarter. Jax Higgins, their quarterback, great name, by the way, scored on a short run to tie the game. And it looked like it might stay tied, but starting at its own 26 with 4:10 remaining, Waterford embarked turned out to be the game-winning drive. Higgins hit Gabe Lombardi with his nice 42-yard pass, blocked from view by one of the 7 referees doing the game, down to the Ledyard 21, and 2 plays later, Higgins hit Spencer with this rainbow down the left sideline and out of the end zone for the touchdown. 2-point conversion pass. Waterford goes flying into halftime, 14-6. In the second half, it was all defense for the Lancers, led by co-captain Porter Watson. The Lancers smothered the single wing, holding Ledyard to just 6 first downs total. Ledyard managed only 121 yards and 37 carries, and after torching its opponents with an average of 376 yards and hadn't thrown a pass in 4 games, now they were forced to pass. And when they tried to pass, it just wasn't pretty. Remind me of those old North Haven teams as they were learning the single wing. Gabe Lombardi for Waterford, in his first year playing football, basketball was his trade, picked off a pass to set up Waterford's 3rd touchdown, a short TD run by Higgins, and then later capped the game in the 26-6 victory with a 54-yard pick 6. Waterford goes flying into the bye 5-0. Ledyard looks to regroup at 4-1. Till we meet again, perhaps. Here is Waterford, all fired up. Listen, they've been through a lot, but this was a big statement win for them.
5-0, yeah. I'm so hyped. I think we can go undefeated this year. I really do.
I play basketball. That's my main thing, and I run track. So every year in the fall, I was always getting ready for basketball. My guys out here on the team, they said, hey, come out. They told me every 4 years, they told me come out, and this year I just decided I would, and it's going great. It's a great feeling. I mean, Waterford is back on the come up. You see us 5-0 out here. And first year playing football, so I only get the taste of the 5-0, but I mean, I'm happy I'm out here getting to win with my boys. So
we knew that this whole game was going to come down to the trenches. We challenged our defensive line the entire week. They knew the challenge ahead. We were doubted heavily by everybody. Nobody really had us win this game, and they answered the bell. We took that to our advantage there.
So you heard a little bit from Porter Watson, their linebacker, who was just all over the field. And you heard from Gabe Lombardi, just his friend said, come out for football senior year. He's like, yeah, why not? And ended up basically making all the big defensive plays in this one. And also Zeth Nolda, their head coach, is pretty fired up about this group. I mean, what can you say, Pete? Little ECC action, Ledyard and Waterford. I mean, look, it could be till we meet again here. Like, here was the problem with me toward the end of this game. Now I know I know Ledyard is running a single wing, and if you're down 2 scores late in the single wing, you got to get creative, and usually there's not a lot in the playbook you get creative with. This is an offense that is designed to kind of bludgeon your opponent, and you go up a couple touchdowns, and there's not a lot of comeback stuff, right? I mean, they have to try to throw a few passes, and when they did, they were like wonky, and they got picked off. Here was the problem, though. There was no real sense of like, my God, we're going to lose this thing. We got to do something, because frankly, Ledyard's going to be fine. And so is Waterford. In a Class SS, is that probably you're going to get in at the very least with 4 losses. And these teams are already halfway through the season. Ledyard's 4-1, Waterford's 5-0. I mean, 1 or 2 more wins for both of these teams, and they're pretty much going to be dancing. And I can see them at least winning a few more down the stretch. So it's like, that is the problem. Again, not to harp on this, but that is why, like, this playoff system, it's like there's no urgency for a lot of teams after you kind of get past midseason. If you get to 6-7 wins, man, you can kind of take your foot off the gas, and that's it.
Yeah, I don't think teams want to take their foot off the gas by any means, but I think you can see in some of these games where, not to go back to last week, but the ending of the Wethersfield game, we didn't really talk about it that much, but a couple of years ago, a loss like that for Wethersfield, their season could be over. Their season could be in jeopardy. Now it's like, yeah, that sucked, but like, whatever. Again, I'm not saying Wethersfield's not upset about the loss, but it didn't cripple their season. They're fine.
Yeah. By the way, that was a horrible call. I didn't really harp on it much. That Wethersfield call, the fumble that wasn't a fumble, that was a horrible call. Oh my goodness. Here's how we do it here on Meat Grinder. We're getting there, but we don't have a studio where I can watch the play live, and I hadn't seen it because there's so much to do going into it. So I have to see it in post. I just didn't get a chance to see it. And when I watched it, I go, oh my God, I got to watch this stuff before I talk about it. So mea culpa on that one, but that was a bad call. Oh my goodness.
But again, it doesn't matter for Wethersfield. They have one loss halfway during the year, and their schedule, they could, it's not gonna end their season. So
no.
And the same thing with Ledyard, where like if you look at their schedule the rest of the way, look, the Fitch game for Thanksgiving is a rivalry, and that's always a really good game for them. Wyndham is not a team that you can sleep on. New London, Woodstock, Griswold, the rest of the way. I mean, even if they lose to Wyndham and Fitch, 7-3 is probably going to be good enough.
Yeah, 100% is going to be good enough. I mean, let's take a look at Class SS a little bit here. I mean, right now, going into the week 6, Wyndham 4-0, Killingly 5-0, Waterford 5-0, Sheehan at 4-1. Then you have Granby Canton, which, they got some tough games left down the stretch. Ellington Capital Prep and North Brantford, to name a few. But I think they only played 3 games. So their game with Weaver got postponed this week till the end of the year. And then you have and Ellington at 4-1 and Tolland at 3-1. So there's a bottleneck here, but once you get the Ledger to 8, then it drops off. New Fairfield 2-2 at 9 spot. Bullard Havens 2-2. Barlow 2-2 might make a run. Foreign maybe can make a run here. They got to play Xavier, Weston, Bassick, Brantford, and Law. I mean, I don't see very many else. So those top 8, maybe 1 or 2 might fall out, but it's pretty set. I hate to say it. That is all we're playing 5-game seasons here which is why, like, all right, you want to have more divisions and more opportunities for teams. Like, I could get that. I can feel that because there were, some teams that had great seasons and you guys didn't feel like they were getting their due, and some teams would just get stuck there. But it's like there's got to be another 6 divisions. Maybe there's a better way to group all these 6 divisions. Maybe do 5 divisions. Maybe do a co-op / tech division, and that will kind of help even these things out a bit. Just spitballing. I know I've said it a billion times before, but right now it's like, it's just, where's the intrigue? The regular season, my main beef gets completely nerfed for the top teams in all these divisions, and Class SS is, public enemy number 1 right now. Double L followed by Double L.
I was going to say, I'm looking at Double L right now, and the hometown boys are sitting there at the 8th seed, and they're like, how?
Right. I mean, let's go to Double L quick. Staples 4-0, New Britain 4-0. We'll be talking to Isaiah Bodie from New Britain later on in the coach's corner. Don't forget to catch that. But Glastonbury 3-1, Fairfield Prep 4-1, West Haven 4-1, Manchester 3-1, and then the 8th spot. It's like Trumbull, West Hill, McMahon, NFA at 1-3, which got smoked by West Haven, and then Southington even there at 1-3. So again, it's almost set. I mean, I want to say almost, but a lot of you're going to be seeing a lot of Staples, New Britain, Greenwich, Glastonbury. I don't think they need to win that many more. Clearly, especially Fairfield Prep got it at 4 wins last year. Jeez. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, it is what it is. But the intrigue is kind of gone, and that's what I dislike about this stuff. But so that was my weekend, Pete. You saw a couple interesting games this week. Why don't we kind of go over them quick? The first was Thursday night. Against, you saw Amity, which was going in undefeated. We had George French on. We were talking about how they shouldn't be looking ahead, or at least George French said that they shouldn't be looking ahead. Their schedule, I was even looking at it going, oh, no, I can't see Amity really losing too many of these. But here was their first big test of the season on the road versus the Law team that got kind of their doors blown off against Brookfield, but since came back to beat Notre Dame, West Haven pretty well. And had some pretty big wins in there. It was going to be an interesting, who's who type of a matchup between you. What happened over there at down in Milford?
Well, Amity is on to Hill House now. I just want to put that out there. Amity at 4-1 is on to Hill House. Beautiful night, beautiful Thursday night at Jonathan Law. And let me tell you about the Lawmen. I love this group. They are so young and talented. You look at, all right, they got beat up by Brookfield a little bit at the beginning. Some of us may have forgotten that when talking about Brookfield's schedule to Coach Haley, but I digress. But this Law team, Amity goes up quickly, 14-0. They get the ball right down the field, touchdown pass to Lance Mahone from Joe Puglisi. Amity picks the ball off and is back in the end zone. Joseph Fryer, 7-yard run. All of a sudden, it's 14-0 in the second quarter, and you're like, okay, like, you know, Amity's going to win this game. And my guy, he is right on the list. I'll have him for the next 3 years, well, 2.5 years on this list on Pete's favorite players. Matthew Whitteman, the quarterback for Jonathan Law, sophomore, right? Scores a touchdown at the end of the first half to bring it to 14-7, 5-yard run. They're throwing blows in the second half, punts and just long drives, but no one's able to cash in. Law can't cash in. Amity's defense holds up time and time again. And then finally, with about a minute and change left, Whitman takes it himself, 3-yard touchdown run. Haley doesn't even hesitate. I'm going for 2 and the win. They basically run the same play, and he's back in the end zone for the 2-point conversion, 15-14. I was talking to a bunch of them after the game. Like I said, they're very young. Whitman's a sophomore. Love this kid. 2 freshmen on the offensive line, 2 sophomores on the offensive line, and a junior playing center. This is a team that is growing as the year goes on. This is a Jonathan Law team that was in the state semifinals not that long ago. You know, they had a quarterback one in John Nider, who was all-state for us on that team too. But this is a team that can win some big games. I really like what the future holds for Jonathan Law. But man, let me tell you, I want to throw it to him quickly, but quarterback for Jonathan Law, he was so excited after the win. I think he was a little bit lost for words here, but let's have him take us through, kind of that final 2-point conversion.
It was kind of the same play. Pearson, he knew it would work again. I mean, our guys are just, what's it called? Well-conditioned, let's say that. And it worked.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that, Pete.
Yeah, he was just so excited, and it was such a big win for them. And I know he got some people who were like kind of dogging him a little bit on social media. Jeez. But like, dude, he was so excited. That was such a great win for the Lawmen. And now look, they're sitting here 4-1 heading into the bye. And I don't think, I think you kind of can watch that Brookfield game away. Think about all the young players they had going down the rest of the way. They got Hamden. Double L's not going to be easy. New Fairfield, right, is a perennial playoff. Sheehan won't be easy. Shelton. And then Foreign, it's a tough second half, but this team is going to learn and they're going to grow. And maybe if it's not this year, but then definitely next year, a team to keep an eye on. And, for Amity, I think it's a learning game. I think maybe they were reading their headlines a little bit too much. Maybe they weren't just, on to the next game. And, they'll get a Hillhouse team that's 4-1, played really well against Hand, but Hillhouse going to be without their best player probably. And I don't think there's any excuses for Amity here. They have to go out and win that game. And that's in 2 weeks, but they have to go out and win that game to get back on track.
That stinks for Hillhouse. They were looking really good in that hand game. That I digress. I'm curious about the Class M race here. If you look at Laws where they're set up, 4-1 is great. If he's 3-2 though, he hadn't really moved much. I know that Coach said after the game that he was never going to hesitate and go for 2, but I wonder if it was a little bit different, if this wasn't Class M, that was not as like maybe the way it's set up right now, that Law maybe makes, let's play it safe here and kick the extra point, maybe try and win it an overtime. But
I think you look at their schedule, you see a double L like Hamden, in L school like Shelton. Yeah, Shelton's 0-, Shelton's 0-5, but they're still Shelton.
They're still Shelton.
And like even like Sheehan is a really good double S school. So like those aren't games that you can assume wins in. So I think you got to get them when you can. And they went out and they took this one right out of Amity's hands. I mean, Amity dominated the majority of that game, and Jonathan Law just like took it away and said no. And
this win basically puts them. I mean, for the most part, it gets them right down on the cusp. I think they win one more game in Class, maybe 2 more games, I should say, in Class M, and they will be in decent shape. Maybe 3 is going to be really good, but that's a really big win for them. And obviously the quarterback. Listen, the quarterback, number 1, he's a sophomore. Number 2, like, we don't cover Law that much. We don't get him on film that much. And so like, I don't blame him for being like, oh my God, the Klieg lights are on me. So that's a great moment. And, I think Amity is still going to be in good shape. I'm going to quickly see where they stand. They're only in 6th in Class L right now. we'll do all the class divisions and take a real good look at them. But that's going to be that's a little bit tougher one. But there's still already some teams with 2 losses in that one. So I'm not. Again, the schedule's tougher than I thought, Amity, because some of those teams, Hill House, have been good. Guilford, obviously, but I think Amity should get the other ones at least, and then one more, they'll be right in there. Sorry, George, but you guys are
on to Hill House, on to Hill House, on to Hill House.
So that was that game. Pete, you mentioned Shelton being Shelton, but this is just this is just really a tough season for them. And we have to keep bringing the record book out to see when was the last time Shelton was this and that. I mean, it's been at least as long as I've been alive, that's for sure, since they were winless this deep into the season. But they did show up a little bit against Hand. You had a chance with the Jewish holiday early start at Fairfield Prep to see a game we usually circle on our calendars. Probably wouldn't have gone to this game had it been the later on in the evening, but it gives you an opportunity to go see the Jesuits versus Shelton. Obviously, Fairfield Prep got kind of smoked. We were singing their praises beginning week 1, smoked by Hand, and now it's kind of a little bit of a catch-up with the Jesuits. I don't think they're going anywhere in Class L, but how do they look against the Gals?
Look, Shelton showed up against Hand, and maybe they stayed there because, this was all Fairfield Prep. Now, Fairfield Prep, I show up to Rafferty, beautiful Friday afternoon. It's nice out. I got to park at the front, and I'm walking in and see some of the coaches from Fairfield Prep, and they're like, which team do you think is going to show up today, Pete? And I'm like thinking back. I'm like, what did I say on Monday? Which Fairfield Prep team's going to show up today? And boy, the good one did. Let me tell you, Robbie Manning threw 4 more touchdowns. 3 different wide receivers caught a touchdown pass, including my guy, Finbar Malloy, right in front of my camera. Give me a little point.
That's right.
The
Paguaga point.
Dominated. Yes, Paguaga point. But let me just quickly, the offense, Fairfield Prep just dominated. They were able to run the ball with Lombardo. And Manning, like I said, threw 4 touchdowns. Malloy was open. Kyler Robinson had a great game. And then flip it on the defense. Mason Frey, first play of the game, right in the backfield. 3-yard loss. And you were like, all right, that set the tone. This game is going to just be a dominant performance. And Shelton did get on the board. Like, I'm not trying to take anything away from Shelton. They had a great fumble. They had a strip and a recovery and took it down, then went backwards and kicked the field goal. And they scored 2 touchdowns in the second half against Preps. Definitely the second touchdown came against the second string for Prep. It's just one of those years for Shelton. And it's one of those years you really hate to see because, Coach DeFelice, does such a good job there, and that's just such a great program. But this just isn't it. This isn't Fairfield Prep's 0-6. They've played such a tough schedule kind of thing. Like, I just don't think this is the year for Shelton. Though I did see a lot of former graduates, a couple of kids from the team last year who were in the house. So we were chatting it up on the sideline. They're all doing well playing in college. So it was really cool to see them.
Correct. Plenty of games, though, left for the Jesuits to get back in our poll good graces, I suppose. They got Bishop Hendricken in a week. In a week. Then they get Sheehan, Hamden, North Haven, and West Haven. That's an interesting schedule. Because they were 4-6, they kind of get some of the middle teams there, in the new SEC hierarchy.
They had Bishop Hendricken, who lost to Greenwich by 1. So I think a win for Prep in that game maybe gets them to 10.
And Hamden, always an interesting one with Prep and Hamden. That North Haven game, though, is looking pretty good. Prep's in double L. Let's be honest. Anyway, so listen, we had a light week. I got to see, comments, and you got to go have dinner with the fam and everything. But even though it's a light week, not as light week for week 6, as we continue our buys, now the FCAC comes back, the CCC comes back, the FCAC comes back as the majority of the SEC kind of takes off here, as well as the ECC does too. And I think the NVL is taking off this week. Pete, some big ones. We're going to get to these in depth on the Pick'em podcast show. Don't forget to check those out. But there are some massive games. And I think what better way to end the actual first half of the season than a few of these that are coming out. We'll start off with one of the ones that lower down the list. Bristol Eastern playing Newington. Team Aquavita 4-0 on Thursday, a game that you're going to go take a look at. The Lancers. Bristol's having a very good football season with both. That's going to be fun. The Battle of the Bell. We got to be at that game this year. Yeah. Bristol Eastern and Central. Central's undefeated, and Eastern's right behind them at 3-1. That'll be an interesting one. Another interesting one is Friday. Glastonbury 3-1 playing Southern, which is 1-3. Kind of really struggling a little bit. They lost to New Britain last week, of course. We saw Glastonbury last week beat Manchester. Now they're another team in Class SS that looks like they're in a good spot. Just a quick note on Glastonbury. As we were putting the podcast together last week, we learned that Coach Eric Hennessy had been cleared of creating what he was accused of causing a toxic culture over at Glastonbury. They did an investigation. He was still allowed to coach the week before against Manchester, but we got an idea that he said it was a rough week for him. And when we asked him afterward, he said he couldn't talk about it. And we learned later that week, I think it was on Monday as we were recording this, that they were doing an investigation. But apparently Glastonbury superintendent said they have cleared him of any wrongdoing, and they're able to kind of go forward. Good to see him back on the sidelines. And then we got to get into a whole big mess of games, Pete, on Friday, all involving top 10 teams. We mentioned the Greenwich one. We got Greenwich versus Wilton. Wilton 2-2. Starting to fall back a little bit.
This is the beginning of the meat grinder.
Yeah, they're
for Wilton. They are literal. They got Greenwich. They got number 1 Greenwich. They got number 5 Darien and number 6 New Canaan.
Yeah.
Good luck, EJ. Good luck, Joey Haggerty. Good luck to the Warriors. It's just a very long 3 weeks.
Absolutely. And then going down as we had number 8 Bunnell. Sorry, I should say number 7. They flipped the votes right as before we went on, but Bunnell number 7 at undefeated Brookfield in the latest SWC game of the week. That's a big one. Brookfield, we haven't seen in the consciousness of this podcast since Coach Rich Angarano really left. I mean, granted, they had a big moment last year. They lost a really tight game against Notre Dame Fairfield, but now they're undefeated. Now it's time to see what was that Michael Walters and the guys have in store for the Bulldogs. This should be a fascinating game up there in Brookfield, Friday, 6:30. Then we go to Friday, 6:30 over at Falcon Field. Pete, 2 teams. You saw one of them. You haven't seen the other.
I've not seen Windsor, so I'll be making that
Windsor
trip.
At Maloney.
Yeah, so I'll be making that trip Friday night. I'm actually going to start at Platt South Windsor because that's at 3:00. Love me some 3:00 games. Then I'm gonna go see Jason.
Jason loves you. He loves us. You love him back.
Go see Joel Ray and Platt against South Windsor, Coach Hodge, and then I'm gonna go get my steamed cheeseburger. Head over to Falcon Field. I mean, Maloney's not ranked, and I don't think they should be with 2 losses, but Maloney's still a really good team. So this game was circled at the beginning of the season for me. I don't want to say this is a must-win for Maloney, but 3 losses at the midway mark. And they got obviously big games coming up the rest of the way, but I don't know if must-win is the tag you could put it on, but, if you're going to have 3 losses to New Canaan, Staples, and Windsor, I'm pretty sure that's the 2, 3, and 16 in the poll. But I'm excited to see what Maloney can do because they've had trouble against the FCAC teams, but they've kind of dominated the the CCC the last couple of years. So I'm really looking forward to see what Maloney can do on Friday night.
I wouldn't call it a must win, but it's close. Class L is interesting. But we'll get into that at the midway point. We'll see. But that's a fascinating game. And then obviously on Friday night, number 8 St. Joseph at number 5 Darien. The only loss is a double overtime loss of Windsor. Now this is a game that we haven't seen for a couple of years. Usually it's like right there on our schedule, and it's Friday 7:30. St. Joseph unbeaten. Darien obviously just with the 1 loss. It should be a great game on over there at Darien High School.
7:30 at night. I mean, what? Oof. Guys, that's past my bedtime.
Getting to it. Well past my bedtime, Mr. Old Man. I don't know if you noticed, I have the little balloon back there. It's my birthday. When you watch this, it'll be my birthday. Oof. I'll be the ripe old age of 35. So
nice. Me too.
But 35 for the 10th consecutive or 12th, whatever. And then finally, the one that we mentioned earlier, just a huge one. Number 6, New Canaan, playing host to number 3, Staples. Finally, can Staples live up to that number 3 ranking, the defending champs, playing the defending champs of L and double L. A great game Saturday, 1:30. Be there, be square. You must go to this game, just for sheer, just momentous rankings and
look. If you're a high school football fan, this is the game you want to go to on Saturday.
Yeah,
this is it. There's enough parking. There's enough stands for you to sit on both sides. This is going to be a really good game. We're going to see what kind of New Canaan team this is. Yeah, they beat Maloney early in the year, but they lost to Massac, and then they came out and they beat teams that they should have beaten, and this is a really big test for them. And then on the flip side, this is a massive test for Staples. They have had their way with the teams that they've played with so far, but they almost gave it away to Maloney. And this is it. This is their big test. This is the guys who, high school football is easy. No, now you get New Canaan. This is where you guys can go to become a double L favorite, or just, kind of just a middle of the road FCAC team. Like, this is the game we're gonna learn a lot of Staples. I'm very excited for this game.
Yeah, can't wait. Be there, be square. Pete, with that said, let's get to shout-outs.
Shout-outs.
You want to kick us off with probably the one game we really haven't talked about from last week? Why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, I will kick us off. At the top, I got, my grandma's going to love my pronunciation of this, Giuseppe, but I think he goes by Joe, Capisano from Notre Dame West Haven. He rushed for 98 yards and had 2 touchdowns, and he threw a touchdown to Josiah Carter in Notre Dame West Haven's upset win. I'm going to call it an upset, 21-20 over North Haven. Great win for Coach DiCaprio, Notre Dame West Haven. That is an 8-ball win, so you have an 8-ball in the mail coming to the school. But heck of a job, guys. Congratulations on the big win. Sean, who do you got?
Pete, I'm going to start off with the guys up in Rockville. We got Will Davis, who returned a fumble 40 yards for a touchdown and caught 7 passes for 92 yards and a touchdown in the Rams' rivalry victory, 20-0 over Stafford. They are in first place in the Pequot Uncas. Big win for your boy, Eric Knickerbocker, over your other boy, Brian Mazzoni. Over Stafford, big one for them. Pete.
All right, going to the Tech division. Andrew Alexander, he threw for 2 touchdowns, including a 25-yard touchdown to Deshaun Copeland that led to the go-ahead point-after-run 2-point conversion that he ran in Cheney Tech's 27-26 win over Thames River. That is a big win for the Fighting Benitos. Good job, Andrew. John, who do you got?
The Fighting Benitos. I was waiting. You stole my thunder right out of there. Pete, I'm going to go with Aaron Lader of Ellington, who threw for a school record 370 yards and 4 touchdowns in a 48-0 win over Coventry Co-op. I know Coventry Co-op is kind of been struggling a lot, but listen, to do something that's never been done in your school history, I don't care who your opponent is, that's a big one for Aaron Lader. Nice job. Pete.
All right, this was the 3rd game I went to this week. We didn't really talk about it on the show, but Anthony Cortella, quarterback of Seymour. Seymour struggling. It's going to be one of those rebuilding years that they keep saying. But he put together an 11-point come-from-behind victory over Derby, where he scored 2 touchdowns, including the inevitable game-winning touchdown. They beat Derby 21-18 in a game that had 1,000 penalties, a game that never ended, a game that Mike Fornabayo and I were looking at each other. Seymour had a chance to kneel it out, but took a 12 men on the field penalty and then actually had to punt it back to Derby, who then gave it right back to Seymour when they roughed the punter. So, but shout out to Anthony. Great game. Congrats on the win. He is another young quarterback that's seeing time now and is going to only get better. So congrats to Seymour on the win. Sean, who do you got?
Pete, I'm going to go back to Holy Cross. Like I know I shouted out our guy quarterback there last week, but this week, they were in a dogfight with Waterbury Career Academy in a very interesting NVL Division I game. But this time the hero was James LaFleur in his second varsity start. Ran for a pair of touchdowns. They needed both of them in their 14-6 victory over WCA. Big time for Holy Cross, who needs to stay kind of in the middle of that race and stay in pace in their playoff race. I believe they are in, where are they? Class M? I always forget where they are. I think they're in Class M. But even if they're not, whatever. Pete, what's your shout out?
All right, my last one. Going back to the Tech Division, but I love me some special teams. And Kamari Burnett, with the game on the line in overtime, drills the extra point to put them up. Well, not only to put them up, but to put the game away, 29-28. Tyler Matlin scored on 4th down to tie the game in overtime, and Burnett knocked home the winner. We love when Bullard Havens gets in the W column.
Yeah,
Derek Lewis, friend of the program, Derek. So we support that. But when the pressure was on, Kamari came through. Sean, who's your last one?
My last, before I get to my Holy Cross, is in Double M, which is shaping up to be a pretty tight playoff race. Well, like I said, we'll get to that next week. But I'm going to cap this off by going to our guy, Devin Lamont of Quinnebog Valley, who I absolutely love this kid's comments after the game. He ran for 258 yards and 4 touchdowns and had a pickoff in a 41-14 victory over VGW Techs. That's Vinyl Goodwin Whitney over at Pat Wallfield in Middletown. That's great by any measure, but his post-game comments, just listen to him right here.
We're down in the northeast corner. Small town with 3 different schools combined, but hey, we got football out here. That's all I got to say. We got some football out here. I love my team. I just love everybody. I love football. You know how it goes.
We have football here. Shouted out all his linemen, and he just said, I love football. Brother,
put it on a shirt. Put it on a shirt.
I love football. I love it too, pal. You're the greatest. We love when you just got kids playing for the love of it. Quinnebog's been kind of up and down this year. That was a big one for them. Great job, Devin.
I want it on a shirt. I want it. We have football up here. I love football. I want it on a shirt.
A small town, man. We're small town boys just playing with big dreams. I love it. Big time. So that's going to do it for this week's Meat Grinder Podcast. Pete, got any final notes?
After what was a slower week, we're going to pick up real quick, and I'm already looking at Thanksgiving and playoff dates, and it's just going to come so fast.
Can't wait. All right, with that said, for Pete Paguaga, I'm Sean Patrick Bowley. This is the Meat Grinder on GameTimeCT.
Love you all.